Eh, Muy buenas tardes. Good afternoon. We're going to start right now this conversation, this panel that we have on Latin American issues today. First of all, I would like to thank you, of course, for coming to this panel. We have a wonderful topic, I think. More important than that, we have a very extremely, I will say, very, very relevant speakers that can provide a really wonderful and nice overview of what is happening right now in Latin America as a region. So the topic for today will be a regional perspective from Latin America, basically focusing more on the economic dimension. For that matters, we will have, as I said, a conversation. It will be in Spanish and English. It's up to you. You decide. We will. I mean, the methodology will be basically to have some questions that we will be answering in a dialogue manner. So for each question, we will have like 3 minutes, and then we will move to the next question. Rápidamente, en español, muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos en esta sesión sobre América Latina, donde vamos a discutir
I would
algunos
like to
tópicos
also address you in Spanish. Thank you so much for coming here in this Latin American issues panel. We will be talking about very important issues, and this panel is going to be very, very beneficial and useful, and we see people all around this region. So what we're going to do, we will have a couple of questions, and I will ask you to answer those
just
questions.
let me introduce myself briefly. My name is Alexander Lopez. I am the Director for International Affairs of the Latin American Center for Development Administration, which is an intergovernmental organization that is working in the whole Latin America. It has 24 member states, basically from Latin America, but also includes Spain, Portugal, and Andorra. I think that it is better if you introduce by yourself when you are answering the question. But we will start right now with the short presentation. I think that is better. We will start from my right side. Please, Don Carlos Guevara. The floor is yours.
What do you want me to say in addition to my name?
Up to you.
I'm the Deputy Foreign Minister of Panama, and delighted to be here, and very grateful to the Turkish government and to the organizers of this panel for setting it up. I think it's a great opportunity, and I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Noemi Espinosa. I am the Secretary General of the Association of Caribbean States. It's an association of 25 member states plus observer states, all that have coasts in the Caribbean Sea. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
I am Denzel Llewellyn Douglas of St. Kitts and Nevis. I am the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Economic Development and Investment, Minister of International Trade, Industry and Commerce, and Consumer Affairs. I'm very, very happy and pleased to be here to share with you my thoughts and our country's thoughts as well.
Thank you.
Muy buena tarde, soy Julio Orozco, viceministro de Relaciones Exteriores de Guatemala.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Julio Eduardo Orozco, and I also act as the Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister from Guatemala.
And I am the President of the Mexican Council on Foreign Relations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm Reha Denemec, Executive Board Member of Foreign Economic Relations.
Thank you. Thank you. As I said, we have I think a wonderful panel, so we'll start right now. Just a couple of sentences on the issue that we're going to discuss this afternoon. Complexity could be one word to describe what we are having today in today's world. But complexity because, we have two main major forces that in a way are working together, but in another way they are quite opposite. On one side, we have a system, an international system, that is quite fragmented. So fragmentation is quite visible. We are seeing many examples of that. The rising of the new powers, what is called emerging economies in Asia and Latin America, are part of this fragmentation of the world that is leading to some sort of multipolar world, because there are, of course, emerging powers in different parts of the world. But at the same time of this fragmentation, we have that the international system is very well connected. The interplay between the different actors is absolutely intense, and the density of these interactions is quite high. So, and those two forces that in a way are different, are opposite, are shaping what we have today. But in addition to that, you have that complexity is even more complex when you take a look at the number of actors that are playing a role in the international system. Because it's not only the state that is, of course, playing a major role, but also we have companies, international companies, we have civil society, we have a whole set of networks working, which make even more complex what we have today. So that means that we have clearly a new geoeconomic and geopolitical landscape. So the first question is, taking into account that we have these new mega trends taking place around the world, so what could be the policy options that the Latin American countries have to face this new geopolitical and geoeconomic landscape? What are the policy options? What we could do in order to be more adaptive, to increase our adaptation capacity to this new world? So I will start with this question with our friend, the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs from Panama.
Thank you very much. So what are the policy options for Latin American countries in this scenario? First of all, I think we would need to characterize that scenario, and our moderator has done that for us in a very efficient way. I would just add to that characterization that we see in the political realm and also in the economic realm a rise of unilateralism. We're seeing a return to tariffs, tariffs as a form of foreign trade or foreign economic policy, and that poses certainly difficulties for countries that, like my own country, are extremely linked to the international system and that depend for their livelihoods on international trade and international services. I would summarize what those policy options are in a nutshell, and I would say, excuse me, intra-regional organization or intra-regional trade seems to be an option which is available for countries in the region, ways trying to enhance inter-regional trade through organizations such as the AEC, or in English it's the ACS, Association of Caribbean States. Other organizations in our part of the world, Mercosur, Panama has just joined Mercosur as an associate state. There's Central American regional arrangements. Those are not functioning as we would like them to function, and we can go into that in a bit. But enhancing trade within regions seems to be an option. I would also suggest that enhancing trade through bilateral agreements with non-traditional partners. And here's where a country like Turkey comes in for countries in the Latin American region. So there's countless opportunities, one might say, with non-traditional trading partners, and we should certainly explore those given the evolving scenarios and the evolving, shall we say, difficulties in the international commercial system as we have known it thus far.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, from the regional perspective, you are leading an organization that is very important for the Caribbean countries. So, what are the policy options that you could see over there?
No, thank you very much. And again, thank you for inviting me to this important forum, because I do see that we're facing interconnected and, like you said, imminent shifts in the geopolitical dynamics, which have effects on our economic, social, and environmental policies. And that's where the Association of Caribbean States, like the distinguished Vice Minister from Panama has just mentioned, is a key organization, because we bring together 25 member states. And I really believe in this new phrase that I'm going to coin, collective sovereignty. Acting from a place of sovereignty of the greater Caribbean, but acting collectively as a regional bloc. I think that there's many opportunities that would increase our resilience as we address these challenges. So to me, it's more of an opportunity, because before it was necessary for us, it was a good idea for us to come together. Now it's absolutely necessary for us to act together along with other regional blocs. So again, I think, if we do that from a perspective, for example, of the association, we can attract sustainable investments that promote knowledge exchange, support strategic projects, and that are multi-country, that really protect the Caribbean Sea, which is the heart of what the ACS does. So again, I think that there's a lot of opportunities, and that there's a lot of strength in our diversity rather. And I just want to say that we should really protect the potential of the greater Caribbean. It has so much to give, and for our own development and also for the development of the world.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Minister, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much. Of course, I support the context that has been created. There's no question in my own mind that there has to be increasing dialogue with the fragmented portions, if you would want to call it that, as the world becomes more polarized, as we see different directions being taken by countries. I would expect, therefore, that there would be stronger attempts at integration. St. Kitts and Nevis is a member of the Caribbean community. We are also a member of the ACS. We are also a member of LAC, which is really the community of Latin America and Caribbean countries. And the idea here is to ensure that, because we are the smallest of the independent countries in the Western Hemisphere, we know we cannot do it alone. We have to go with others. And so that is why I say we have to create dialogue instead of further fragmentation. We have to make sure that our young people are given the opportunities to realize that the world is becoming more complex, and thus have to invest in our own young people in the area of science, technology, mathematics, engineering, because this is what is going to change the world in the sense of making us much more independent, but at the same time being integrated with the rest of the community in which we live in. I believe that in situations like this, we must also invite investment from our partners. Turkey, for example. A good example of what I believe can be achieved by assisting smaller countries like ours, forging greater links and bonds with countries like Turkey and other developed countries to move us forward as a successful state.
Yeah, thank you, Minister. I mean, it's very nice to have the view of a small country, like St. Kitts and Nevis, actually 2 islands, from a small country, because it's, very often you don't have the opportunity to listen, what are the thoughts on that for small countries. Mr. Rehan, the same question, but a little bit different. So, taking into account this geoeconomic and geopolitical environment that we have right now, so we have challenges, but also we have opportunities because there is a new reality there. So what kind of opportunities do you see for Turkey, doing investments in Latin America, taking into account that situation that we just described?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If there's a risk and challenges, there's many opportunities if you make a good decision. You are right. Well, with this tariff, the fluctuations, nobody knows what's going on, and it's a very difficult era right now for all over the world, and I'm pretty sure it's going to affect also all Latin American countries because of China. You have a lot of trade relations and free trade agreement with that countries, and you have also big partners in the United States, and there will be the unclear situation right now. So you need some new regions, not just China, United States, or EU. The world is big. There are, the Asia, Middle Asia, Middle East. So for that reason, Turkey is kind of hub for all that regions, and we have very good relations with that countries, even Africa, Middle East, and Central Asia. So distance is a problem, but Turkish Airlines right now flying directly Chile and other Latin American countries, and I'm pretty sure it's going to increase number of stops in Latin America. So there will be more interactions after that one. And as far as I know, the Latin American countries mostly exporting raw materials, natural materials, and we can together put some value at that one and to sell the third parties. We can invest in that countries in Latin America, or we can do in our country, in Turkey, if the new markets around, like Middle East and Central Asia. So these are the opportunities we can start. There are some Turkish companies invested for the port industry in different countries, Ecuador, Peru, and it's the Yıldırım Holding, I believe that. And it means that some Turkish people discovered Latin America, and it will be some more other big investors in the big continent.
Yeah, actually, your point is very much related to the point that Vice Minister Guevara made it when he said that one of the opportunities, the policy option, is these non-traditional partners. That's exactly or precisely what you were emphasizing. So,
thank you very much. So I think that the policy options that are open to Latin American and Caribbean countries are dependent also on the very specific distinctiveness of each country. And I think one of the things that we sometimes forget is that Latin America and the Caribbean is really not a single region. You will really have very different situations for different countries. And you have the Southern Cone countries have regional integration mechanisms, Mercosur, which is very distinctive and has a certain model, and it's worked fairly well, but it has its limitations also. You have Mexico, which has been very, very tied to the U.S. and Canadian economies, and first with NAFTA and then with the USMCA, and so that is a very different kind of region. You were mentioning, Reja, that there's a lot of Latin America is very dependent on commodities, but for example, that is not the case of Mexico. Mexico is really not a commodity exporting country. Even in the realm of agriculture, we tend to export more high value, specific agricultural products like tomatoes and avocado, et cetera, et cetera. But most of our economy is really around the manufacturing sector, and that's what we mostly export. And we are the biggest manufacturing exporting country in Latin America, even bigger than Brazil. So you have lots of important differences between the countries in Latin America. Central America also has its distinctiveness, as do Colombia and the Andean region as well. So I think that the policy options that each country faces or each country has really is dependent on this mixture of the way that their economies are integrated, the way their economies face the world. In the case of Mexico, we have one of the most open economies in Latin America. We have negotiated a record number of free trade agreements over the past 30, 35 years. And so we're very much exposed to this sort of new world of greater protectionism. And so it's no surprise that the focus of Mexico has been in the last 50, 60 days has been really on trying to shore up and protect the very unique relationship that we have with the United States and Canada through the USMCA. And I think that Mexico has been fairly successful at that. The first thing to note is the USMCA is still there. It still exists, and it still covers a very large percentage of our industry and of our exports. But there's still a lot more to do, and there have to be these negotiations to make sure that we don't blow up something that has worked extraordinarily well for all three partners, for Canada, for the United States, and for Mexico. And you cannot imagine the North American region as being internationally competitive without this arrangement that is of great benefit to all three countries. So as far as Mexico is concerned, I think the most important choice right now is to make sure that we shore up that agreement and we keep that agreement intact, and perhaps even make it better, improve it so that it's more resilient. And at the same time, and I think this is important, and this is what we've been telling our government in Mexico is, and at the same time, we have to look for non-traditional partners. We have to look to India. We have to look to Brazil and to the rest of South America. We have to shore up integration efforts and economic efforts that were quite successful, such as the Alliance of the Pacific, and continue to make those. And I think Turkey is one of the prime destinations of that kind of enlargement and opening up. We have a long way to go, because I think trade relations and investment relations between the two countries are still just in their infancy. But there's a lot of things that can happen, and I think I'm hoping that in the next few years we'll see a great increase in the volume of trade and the volume of investment that we have between Turkey and Mexico.
Thank you, Mr. Cárdenas. You answered my 3 questions, actually. Señor viceministro, por favor.
Gracias. Yo voy a poner un poquito de salsa a esto, hablando español, ¿ok?
I would like to add some sauce to this by speaking in Spanish.
We are in Latin American Forum, also Caribbean, and there are some countries from the Caribbean, they speak Spanish also. Bueno, primero que todo, pues gracias por la invitación al foro. Realmente creo que tal vez voy a comenzar un poco más. Me baso en la parte que mi colega Guevara mencionaba, mi colega de Panamá.
Mr. Guevara, as mentioned by him, I'd like to start with this. I think we should be seeing each other more as a region, because we talked about the potential of the region. We all know that there is a potential in the region. However, we have to get going. We have to move. We have to start moving. And we can also have an interregional relationship, and this might make us stronger on a regional basis. Guatemala is a Central American country, one of the 5 Central American countries. We have an integration system. We're talking about a market of 46 million people, so we have enough demographic power, frankly speaking. And in order to come here and operate, it is a favorable place for companies, so we can help other economies as well. We can become a production hub. Central American countries have incentives on customs duties and income taxes and concerning imports of machinery, so they have favorable global advantages. So we have the basis already there, but we have to get to know the Caribbean countries, the Great Caribbean. We are part of it, as you know. This is what the definition is like, but we don't know each other well. The connectivity in the 70s was better than today's. From Latin America, from Central America, from Mexico, there used to be ships moving, but we don't have that connectivity at the moment. We have to if we're going to talk about a non-traditional relationship, I just visited India. It's such a magnificent place, and Turkey is a country which we are just getting to know, so there is a huge potential. Anyway, let's stop talking about potentials and let's get into action and become the strong region that we want to be. We are 33 countries, and we are part of the Americas Association, so we can create much more benefit. The economy is recovering, and there are new rules and customs duties. In the past, we used to have a single target, but we also look back, look forward, look sideways. I think this is what we're missing, and we have the necessary basis to do this, and we should think about nearshore option for some important supply chains. And with this dialogue, we have to get beyond the traditional. We want new business with Turkey, don't we? This is the reason why we are here. And I think you also want to get to know our region from the Turkish Foreign Relations Board. We have some businessmen doing business with our region. So we have the necessary foundation already laid out, and we need the courage to continue these investments. So this is my message. We're ready, and we're very happy to be part of this forum.
It seems to be that one of the policy options clearly is to have, as you said,
Sizin de söylediğiniz,
we need to know each other better. That means we need to strengthen our process of regional integration. So one of the policy options is, in fact, to have a stronger process of regional integration. We have several in Latin America. You just mentioned Mercosur, CARICOM in the Caribbean, SICA in Central America, NAFTA, of course, in North America. There are several examples. Vice Minister, you also mentioned at the beginning that the Central American integration system, which is called SICA, is not working that well. So, taking into account that one of the policy options is that, what do we have to do in order to make it better, or to make this regional integration process really work well?
Thank you, moderator. So, it's difficult to get into this into just a couple of minutes, but I will try and summarize as briefly as I can. I think basically we need to get our act together. We've got all these regional accords and mechanisms in Latin America and the Caribbean. We mentioned some of them. There's basically political mechanisms and there's economic mechanisms, but all of them have important obstacles to their normal functioning. So I mentioned SICA. Right now, SICA is without a Secretary General. Why? Because one country in the region, namely Nicaragua, insists on submitting a list of candidates that are not acceptable to the other countries. So I was meeting with your minister just a couple of days ago in Tegucigalpa, trying to sort out this problem because SICA is not functioning as it should because of this stalemate that we have. LAC, which we mentioned just a minute ago, this is a political arrangement, but at the same time, it has an economic impact. And this is a group which encompasses the whole of the region, as was mentioned before, but we cannot even issue a declaration because there's such antagonism between member states. Some of them have very strong positions, shall we say, to the right. Others have very strong positions to the left. Some are dictatorships, others are democracies. And let's put it this way, we don't get along as we should, okay? So this is something that we need to focus on. If we want to have, it's even beyond having an impact. It's a question of survival. If we want to survive as independent countries, as viable countries, if we want to survive as a region, then we need to get our act together in this sense. Then there's something else that I would also like to mention. So I alluded to multilateral and to bilateral trading agreements and economic agreements. In terms of bilateral, every pair of countries have their problems. So Panama has issues with Colombia, Panama has issues with Costa Rica, Panama has issues with other countries that can be solved. They can easily be solved if there's the will to solve them, but they continue to persist. So I think in this new scenario that we are confronting, which we have already described and which we know well, a rise of unilateralism and a rise of protectionism, we need to get our act together, both bilaterally and multilaterally. Otherwise, we're going to lose big time.
Thank you. Do we have a better example in the Caribbean?
I'm building one.
Okay.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. And yes, I'm at the edge of my seat to respond because I'm the new Secretary General, well, since January of the Association of Caribbean States, and I really have an ambition to position the association for what it was conceived when it was created by CARICOM 30 years ago as a way to bring the CARICOM countries closer to the Latin American countries. And it's all of the countries, again, that have shores in the Caribbean Sea, and I keep emphasizing this because the potential of that is immense. And I think if we make it work, then it would be fantastic. And I have every ambition that it will work because it's absolutely necessary. It's no longer an issue of discourse or an option. It's really a very necessary mechanism to work. And again, I come back to this idea of collective sovereignty because I think if we, the Vice Minister pointed to some of the issues that are not agreements between the various countries, and they are there, and they exist there, and they must be resolved. But there are so many others that are our collective sovereignty, and I like this idea because we are sovereign nations, or they are sovereign nations that have their own priorities and their own economic and political models. But if we work collectively from that perspective of sovereignty and also towards the world, and I think that's what the partnerships with countries like Turkey, like some of the others that have been mentioned, bring. It's a mutual, respectful position. And there really are more things that bring us together. So it's not even, I would dare say, not even a matter of trying to have a conversation from the perspective of the Association of Caribbean States about the political perspective of an individual country. It's let's talk about how we protect the Caribbean Sea, how we have better connectivity, how we have better trade routes, how we integrate so that we can trade amongst each other, trade with other partners, how we can have multi-destination sustainable tourism options. There's so many things that we can work on. And as the Association of Caribbean States, I am ready for it to work. So thank you very much.
Good, thank you. So do you want Minister to comment on that, please?
Yes, of course. We in the Caribbean community, which would have started since in the 70s, would have made several attempts to strengthen the relationship. At first, of course, it was designed to have free trade, and that has been achieved to a large extent. There is, however, the need to have free movement of people. That, to a large extent, has been achieved, but there are still some restrictions, occasionally based on certain aspects within a particular country. But we also had set out to achieve a single economy, and that has not yet been achieved. The idea here is to have probably one regional central bank where there is a particular value to the dollar that exists within the community. That, to some extent, has been shelved. So that has to be worked upon. But the challenge is that if the members of the Caribbean community are at different levels of development, then you would also have that problem. But we need to move beyond that, despite that particular challenge. We need to recognize that there are specific areas that we need to have development that can be achieved for all of us. For example, energy. How do we solve the problem of energy? Is there going to be, for example, for the community, a single regional grid so that those who have fossil fuel energy, those who are doing geothermal, those who are doing solar can input their excess into a regional grid so that we can power manufacturing in all of the member countries based on cheaper energy? How do we reach out with our neighbors beyond the community? Recently, I think the United States has indicated that it would wish to deal with us, not so much as a region in a multilateral way, but bilaterally. That is a challenge to us, because each of us must speak the different language according to where we are and to whom we are speaking. That's not what we want. We want to be greatly integrated so that we speak the same language, irrespective of who we are speaking to, in a multilateral way rather than a bilateral way. And finally, the non-traditional partners who we want to invite into the community to assist us. We mentioned a moment ago about the Turkish airline. How do we really develop tourism as a services economy, which most of us are engaged in, if we do not have reliable transportation within the community? And here's where I use this opportunity to make an appeal to those countries who wish to do business with us. Also, allow your airlines to come into our region and make it possible for greater freedom of movement of tourists so that we can help to build what we are trying to achieve within the Caribbean community. I'll stop here for now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yes, in fact, this what is calling in political science, this scale problem when it comes to regional integration is always a challenge. You also mentioned that. But there is an important difference between Central America and the Caribbean, and you just mentioned that. You just point out that connectivity in the Caribbean is a challenge. It's a real challenge. In the case of Central America, I mean, connectivity is a challenge, but it's for another reason, not for geographical reason. It's for political reason or for other reasons. But connectivity in the Caribbean is a key element when understanding the situation. So back to you. No, of course, not the same question. I'm not going to ask about regional integration in Latin America. But just looking at how Turkey is approaching Latin American countries, will you see Turkey more in favor of doing a regional approach or a bilateral approach? What will be your thoughts on that?
Well, I would like to say first, there's a neutral countries for us, all Latin American and Caribbean countries, because we do not have any border. There are a lot of distance, and we do not have any conflict and problem with them. So it's a positive thing for the beginning. But we know that there is a great opportunities in this continent. So there were some barrier before, as I said, that it's not easy to reach that countries, and language was the barrier. But right now, the translate everything with that, the stuff, and reaching that countries with airlines, it's very important issues so I'm repeating, and thanks Turkish Airlines, we are reaching everywhere in the world with that easily. It takes max 14 hours, 15 hours to reach any countries in Latin America, maybe in Caribbean, some transfer or something like that, a little bit more. So for that reason, in this situation, because the trade going to be, the way of trade is going to be changed, and it will be new era, and in this new era, there will be new, the opportunities for both sides. So no conflict, a lot of, potentials. We did not achieve anything until very, very little things we achieved. So we can fulfill in the next medium term. I'm saying that not it will be doing in a minute, in a moment, but there are some companies dealing with the region, so there will be some more.
Yeah, well,
and especially in this moment, there are a lot of risks for security issues for the countries, and a lot of demands for defense industries, and Turkey is very good at position in that one, and as a neutral countries for all that, Latin American and Caribbean countries, it's an opportunity to collaborate together. So one thing I would like to say, it was 1.5 years ago, Vietnam Prime Minister was in Turkey, and he said that we are going to have independent defense policies. Means that I don't want to go to Russia or United States because there is a lot of trade relations, but Russia was their allies during the Vietnam War, and there were only one way for that one to provide for that equipment, Turkey, because it's with the NATO standards, very, very high quality and very reasonable prices. And we are open to collaboration because the distance gives some advantages, because no conflict between the countries like Vietnam or with Latin American countries. So it's another opportunities for the collaboration in defense industry.
Yeah. I get that there is an enormous room for making stronger this, what would you call this collaboration, because as far as I know, you have just only one free trade agreement, right?
Yes, however, they had an agreement March, and there will be some new.
Exactly.
I'm pretty sure about that one.
Exactly. So, Mr. Cardenas, I know that you already answered that question, but back to you.
But I think
back to you. Yeah, because this NAFTA is now really under threat in a way. So it will be very nice to listen. What do you think about the importance of this regional integration, and how in the case of Mexico, how Mexico is going to deal with this new situation, in terms of this regional integration.
So I'd like to make 2 points. One is just to go back to what Vice Ministers Guevara and Orozco said previously about having to get our act together. I think that's a really important point. And, Latin America is one of these regions that has almost as many organizations and integration schemes as there are countries. It's like it's a proliferation of letters, from an alphabet soup, and a lot of them don't work, and a lot of them are not really very useful. And I think that if we take a page from other regions that have been more successful at this, you have to be specific, and I think you have to focus on the technical issues that we really care about and try and integrate around those things. And we have some important things that work. In Panama, for example, you have the headquarters of CAF. CAF has been a regional development bank that has become incredibly useful and is very successful. It's actually now bigger, more important than the Inter-American Development Bank. And it's a resounding success because it was narrowly narrowly scoped from the very beginning. It has a very clear mandate, and it's been expanding little by little and just building upon success. And I think that's the kind of model that I think we should be following. You want to come together around specific issues that you can agree on, because of course there are lots of disagreements among Latin American countries, because there are lots of different political positions, because there are different regional interests, because the economies are different and they're differently structured. And so it becomes this sort of elusive idea of Latin American integration, Bolivarian integration, all of these ideas, I think, are really not very practical. And I think the proof of that is that we've been trying to do all this for many years and it doesn't work. So let's go back and focus on the things that do work. And I mentioned before, several, types of arrangements that have been functioning correctly. CAF is one example. We have the Alliance for the Pacific that has, had some rocky moments in the last few years, but I think that was a very successful initiative. You have Mercosur also has been quite successful. So we have to build on those successful ideas. And we have some important regional topics that concern us all. Certainly, trade is one of them. Investment is another one. Migration is a pretty important issue, and it affects certainly all the countries from Colombia all the way to Mexico, and it affects the United States as well. So there is significant opportunity for collaboration in this area. Now, as far as what you were asking about Mexico and the USMCA, for Mexico, it really is a critical part of our development strategy. It's a critical part of who Mexico is. We can't move ourselves in the world. We can't change our border. We have 3,000 kilometers of border with the United States. Our economies are incredibly intertwined. I was talking to some trade experts the other day, and they were explaining to me that an automobile that is sold in the U.S. market under USMCA rules moves on average 7 times across the borders of the 3 countries. Right? Every time you put another part, it's usually moving to a different part of the 3 countries. And so that kind of integration is incredibly valuable, and it becomes the lifeblood of competitiveness of the region. And I think even the most hardline protectionists and isolationists in the Trump administration have had to reckon with that reality. And that's why the USMCA has largely been kept intact. And I think that's going to be one of the main priorities of Mexico for sure. But looking south, there's lots of things that we need to do to strengthen the role of integration initiatives and just getting more trade and more investment to flow across the region. And a lot of that is happening through just private companies going about their business. And you see, if you look at the Central American markets, if you look at Colombia and Brazil and Chile and Argentina, you see those companies from each of these countries. They're present everywhere. It's like there's a joke in Brazil that says that there's a new OXXO, which is a convenience store owned by a Mexican company, FEMSA, that it strikes up every day. There's a new one popping up somewhere, and it's true that companies have been incredibly successful where maybe governments have not been in finding opportunities across Latin America. So maybe that is one of the best rays of hope, is just letting the private market do what it has to do. And for that, you have to maintain openness, and you have to maintain a focus on competitiveness in each one of the countries. And if we do that, I think that's going to create a lot of the right incentives to have greater investment and greater trade within the Latin American and Caribbean region.
Yeah, thank you. Señor Viceministro Orozco, señor Viceministro Guevara decía que teníamos
Distinguished Deputy Minister, you have been mentioning that integration here is such complex that you can't even appoint a Secretary General in order to overcome those challenges. And if you think about integration strategies, what type of opportunities lie ahead? I mean, how we can move forward and how we can overcome the problems, especially if you think about those things that you have mentioned, the role of, for instance, private sector. We know that the role of private sector is very important because even in Central America there have been certain theses or strategies provided for that. Of course, it will take time, but the private sector is very dynamic. They can integrate much faster, and so there are certain differences if you compare public and private integration process. Yes, I have been thinking about this. If you think about the private sector, well, yes, private sector. For private sector, we have created certain platforms. Sometimes they work, sometimes not. Sometimes there have been crises, but they have always moved forward. Sometimes we see private sector as our enemy, and I don't know why, but we have a certain relation between public and private industries, and we have to strengthen those relations. First of all, those two spheres need each other, and because they have their own specific tasks and duties, and public institutions, organizations have their own mandates and duties, but the integration systems, especially in Central America, have become much more crucial. And I believe that we can achieve that. I believe that we can be a part of it and we can create a solution. But sometimes there might be, of course, different levels. There might be different means of moving forward. And so I believe that the private sector is teaching a very important lesson to the public sector. But we are here for controlling, for supervising, but if you look at what they are doing, of course we take example from what they do. In that way you can create tax, you can get revenue, and that's how you grow your economy. So we have to really appreciate it, and there will be, of course, certain regional challenges, but there might be various platforms and different institutions. But looking at the private sector, especially SMEs, which are also crucial, so those small and medium enterprises need to be supported. If you let them do business, just like our colleague mentioned, just like our Mexican colleague mentioned, we can then let them to take actions, especially I'm talking about SMEs. We need to loosen certain maybe rules for them. So our mandate is to help them and not to interrupt their operations. That is a symbiotic relation for opening up to international markets. It's like a response to the challenges of today. So, of course, we will face certain regional obstacles, and they might, of course, exist in the future too, but it's a key fact for us. It is something to mobilize our economy. Of course, states will generate revenues through taxes. In addition to that, as pointed out earlier, migration is also another issue. But also, thanks to those movements, the economies in different countries are also getting better. If you think about Guatemala, if you think about Mexico, if you think about the borders with USA, these are really important issues for me. The cooperation between public and private sector is very important. I have witnessed that, especially if you look at those in the northern side. Of course, the challenges bring them together, and that will work the same. Here, here, for instance, we can also come together, but we have 25 representatives, and 6 or 7 of them are here, and they're from the public domain. So we need each other. We are very important for each other. And actually, everyone here needs to do their purpose, and we are always going to be a good alliance.
The role of the private sector is absolutely critical in improving regional integration in Latin America. One of the key elements that you were mentioning, Mr. Deneme, was this important geographical aspect that Turkey is playing, because it's in the middle of everywhere. One of the things that I like about Turkish Airlines is not only the service, which is an extremely good service, by the way, is when they land in Turkey, they say, "Welcome to Turkey, meeting point of the world." You feel important, no? Because you are right in the middle. So the following question is a more specific one, and I will start by our friend, the Vice Minister from Panama. And the question is what we could do from Latin America in order to increase or to make stronger our relationship with Turkey.
Thank you, moderator. So this is a question that we have been discussing with our ambassador in Turkey and with the Turkish ambassador in Panama as well, because as I said before, we need, in this juncture that we are situated, we need to locate and identify new opportunities, non-traditional partners, and Turkey is certainly one for Latin America and for Panama specifically. So we have speak about Turkish Airlines, we've been having, I think it's about 10 years now, or it'll be 10 years shortly, that we've been having direct flights from Panama to Istanbul, which is great. I think we now have 10 flights a week, which is fantastic. We need to find ways in order to enhance these relationships. I was looking at the figures. My country, Panama, for sure, is not a big exporting country. It's a country that specializes in services. So in that way, it is somewhat different from all the other Latin American economies. But still, there is productivity in Panama, there is manufacturing, and there's other opportunities for exports in Panama, and we're not taking full advantage of that. According to the figures that I was provided, there's something like the balance of trade is something like 18 million in exports from Panama to Turkey versus 375 million the other way around. So there's room for much more. And what I would like to mention, because this is something that I've been thinking about carefully, is that we should probably think more broadly, not just in terms of trade, basic trade and exchanges of imports and exports. We should probably think much more broadly. So there's a lot of room for enhancing relationships based on international cooperation. So Turkey is a country that has a great cooperation scheme, and countries in Latin America could certainly benefit from that, and all of that brings about enhanced relationships. Turkey is a country that has an incredible cultural heritage. It's amazing. Somebody was mentioning right just a minute ago that when you come here, you feel important because you've just landed at the meeting place of the world. Well, this is no small matter. This is a country that has been around for millennia. Maybe not exactly as it is now, for sure not, but this is a place that has such a rich history, a rich culture, and all of that provides opportunities in the cultural, in the cooperation arenas, and for sure in the trading and economic arena. So I think we should do a good job, a better job in exploring all these opportunities and see where there are where synergies might be created in order to enhance our relationship. I see great opportunities, not just in the trading realm or in the commercial realm, but in the realm of investment, cooperation, academic exchanges, science, culture, etc.
Great. Thank you. So, same question, but from the Caribbean perspective, how we could enhance this relationship with Turkey?
Yes, thank you. No, I think I agree. There's enormous potential for and there is a relationship that the association, for example, has with Turkey that has been long-standing. Turkey is one of the observer countries, and we are very grateful for their contribution to the association. I think from an economic perspective, a partnership between the countries of the Caribbean can expand our access to technology. It can diversify markets in the greater Caribbean. It can address our issues of resilience. And I think that there's a lot to benefit from a more diversified partnership among the countries from the countries of the greater Caribbean with countries like Turkey. I also want to again emphasize that the greater Caribbean holds great potential. And one thing that I haven't mentioned yet, but it's a zone of peace. And I think that that's something that cannot be overemphasized, especially in the current world and in the broader framework of this conference, which is looking at opportunities in a fragmented world. Having a region such as the Greater Caribbean that is committed to peace, that has recommitted itself to being a region of peace, really provides a unique opportunity for partnership with the rest of the world. And I really think that my ambition is that the Greater Caribbean, but also with partners like Turkey, becomes a model of coexistence in this fragmented world. And I believe that we have everything there to do it. I agree with the panelists that there have been challenges, that we do need to get our act together. But like I said at the beginning, it used to be when the Association of Caribbean States was established 30 years ago, it was a nice idea. Now it's an absolute necessity. And we will get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, Miss.
Right. I want to echo quite a bit of the sentiments that have been expressed by our Secretary General of the ACS. But I want to make the point, maybe more dramatically, that the time has come, in my opinion, for Turkey to seize the moment. Turkey, I believe, has done exceptionally well in terms of the role that it has played in the geopolitics of the region, Europe and the associated Arab contacts. But Turkey, I think, has not done enough exploration as to what is possible within the Caribbean community. And so I use this opportunity to say to the Turkish government that we are open for investment. We would want to invite the Turkish government and the business community of Turkey to explore the possibilities for expanding investment within the Caribbean community. St. Kitts and Nevis, for example, is the smallest, as I said. We have a highly educated workforce, 98% literacy. I don't think you'll find that anywhere else in the Caribbean region. We are hardworking people. Our children are doing exceptionally well up to the secondary level. We need opportunities to go on to the tertiary level education. I'm asking the government of Turkey, open up your universities. Let the young minds from the Caribbean community get the opportunity to train themselves as engineers. Let them look at the opportunities for artificial intelligence. Let them get into the technology of drones and the important role that they can play in advancing our humankind. I believe that Turkey is well placed to go beyond its traditional borders. We welcome Turkey at this moment in the Caribbean community.
Thank you, Minister. We're just going to have the final comment from your side, and then we will open the floor for you. Is that okay? Yeah. just to finish, 3 minutes, and then we will open the floor for questions and comments. Yes, please. From your side. Yes. Same question, but the other way around.
Well, I just want to say that, there will be some potential opportunities between Latin America and Caribbean and Turkey. So I would like to give the floor to my right to the floor. So yes, and I would like to cut my, the speech here.
Yeah.
And
you want
they may ask 1 or 2 more questions instead of to talk.
Okay. Good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think there are good opportunities for collaboration. I know that the Turkish government is very interested in negotiating a trade agreement with Mexico, and I think it's pretty much ready to go. If our ambassador here in Turkey is telling me that it's really ready to go, and I think all we need is just to have our government be a little bit less distracted by our northern neighbors so that they can focus on some other arrangements, on other agreements that have to happen. But I think that's the way to go. We have to, continue working on that institutional framework and getting arrangements. I know none of these things are easy. Trade agreements are always a little complicated, and there are areas where, of course, countries compete with each other, and you have to figure out with the different sectors what are they willing to agree to. But I think that's the way to go. And in the meantime, to continue to have this interconnectivity that we have with the airlines and get, Turkish Airlines already flies to Mexico. We want to have, Mexican Airlines also, Aeromexico flying to Turkey, and have more and more exchanges of business people and educational exchanges as well, to just move things forward. I mean, it's going to take a while. This is not these are new relationships in a sense, even though the countries have been around for a long time. But we have to build them, and make them, create the platforms for shared success. I think that's what we have to do.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Adelante, usted
Sí,
cierra
gracias.
y vamos a las preguntas.
Bueno, como mencioné, hemos dejado de pensar
As
en
I've
ese
mentioned
potencial
before,
de la relación con Turquía. Y ya estamos teniendo
our
una relación
potential
con Turquía.
for Turkey.
Este año
We've
recibimos a
already
6
gone
empresas,
beyond thinking about this
agentes de
potential, and we
viajes de estado
started establishing this
este estado
relationship.
de
6
Turquía
companies from
en
Turkey
Guatemala.
came to
Llegó
our
el
country,
representante también de
Guatemala.
Turkish Airlines.
We received
Queremos comenzar a
tourism
vincularlos ya
agencies,
de
and
esa
we
manera
also
también, a que
hosted
conozcan
a
qué es
representative
Guatemala.
from Turkish Airlines. So
Tuvimos
we
una
want to
excelente
have
misión
ties
comercial
with Turkey in
organizada
this
por TEI,
regard. We want them
y
to
esas
know
empresas,
where
hoy 2 de ellas ya
Guatemala
están haciendo
is,
negocios. Ya estamos
and
acercando más
the
nuestros
Turkish
mercados.
Foreign
Estamos viendo también
Economic
hacia el
Relations
futuro, ¿por qué no
Board
hablar de
paid
un
a
acuerdo
visit
de
to
alcance
our
comercial?
country, and we now
¿Por qué
have
no hablar
closer
de
ties.
un
We're
tema
looking
de
into the
transferencia
future now.
tecnológica? Nuestro sector textil es
So
muy
why not
fuerte,
talk about
y
a
ya estamos
free
evaluando
trade
todas esas
agreement? Why not
posibilidades.
talk
Yo creo
about
que
technology
ya
transfer?
es la acción.
And
Nosotros
Guatemala
estamos
has a
tomando
strong
acción sobre este tema.
textile
Estamos
sector.
realmente
So
encaminando
we've
todos
gone
los
beyond
esfuerzos.
the
Somos
talking
una economía
phase,
tan
and we're
abierta
now
como
in
la de
the
México.
action phase. We're bringing
Tenemos
together our
acuerdos con los
efforts,
grandes
just like
países
Mexico.
cercanos, por
We're
supuesto.
an open
En una
economy.
semana estamos
We're
firmando el
and we
acuerdo,
have
el
good
Tratado de Libre
relationships
Comercio con
with
Perú,
all the
y luego pensando en
neighboring
una
countries
integración más a ese
close
nivel regional
by
también.
countries, and we will
Pero en este
sign
caso,
a free
si
trade
Perú,
agreement with Peru. So we're trying to
Turquía,
enhance
ya
regional
está teniendo
cooperation.
conocimiento de Guatemala, y nosotros
Let me
estamos haciendo
emphasize,
nuestro esfuerzo.
as Turkey
Nuestras
gets to know
embajadas están
Guatemala,
trabajando de la mano, cosa que creo
we're
que debemos
increasing
de
our
promover
efforts.
más.
Our embassies are
acercamiento de
working
nuestras
side by
propias
side.
embajadas, que nos comuniquemos de una mejor manera para lograr beneficios
So
mutuos.
let us
Yo creería que
strengthen
esa parte de
our
Turquía
embassies'
ha sido muy
relationships
buena,
and ties so
el
that we
acercarse
can
con
meet
una misión
at a
diplomática
point
cada
of
país demuestra
common
ese interés, por
benefit.
supuesto, en la
So with a
región y en
diplomatic
cada país.
mission,
Y nosotros en la
coming
mejor medida
closer,
también de
Turkey
ofrecer
is coming
nuestra-
closer to
todo lo
Latin
que
America,
tenemos, o
showed
sea,
their
como
interest
un-
in the
como una
region,
parte,
and we're
de
trying to
socios,
come
de
up
amigos que
with
podemos
what
ser.
we
Así
have,
que,
the best of
de
us.
mi parte hay todavía bastante que hacer.
So we're
Hablo de
doing
estos
this as
temas como
partners,
un
as
acuerdo de
friends.
alcance parcial.
So
Hablo de todo
I
ese
also
tema
have
de
things to do
nuevas
about that,
alianzas en
such
sectores
as
como el textil, donde somos muy
improving
fuertes.
trade
Pero hay
agreements
mucho más que
and
hacer. Hay toda una opción integral
signing
para nuevos
new
negocios, para
agreements for new alliances, and much more could be done, such as in the realm of investments, and we've already started doing this. We're very happy about this. So trade ties and friendly ties between the two countries getting stronger makes us really happy.
I think that I remember the first hands that I remember you. Yeah, I remember you and you. We will take 4 questions first, and then if we manage, we will take a second round. We have still like 15 minutes, okay? We'll first, second, third, and the fourth one. And then we will do another round, okay? Hopefully, yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm Hüseyin Bağcı, professor of Middle East Technical University. It means, Mr. Gentleman, Mr. Minister is also part of my university, like Yaprak Hanım and Levent Bey, and the ambassador to Dominique and to Argentina. In academic terms, Mr. Douglas, thanks to the Caribbean diplomats, I invited them to my university. 6 of them came, and one of them is also here. We wanted, and we want to have more young brains, young men from your country to our universities. My university is the leading university in Turkey, Middle East Technical University. So there is science and technological developments there. Trade is one, tourism the other one, but also science and technology is very important. Also to exchange the students to know each other more, learning about the history, about the future. And by the way, as my dear friend from Mexico said, if you look always to the north, you see Antarctica, but when you look to the south, you see green and a lot of food, if you want. Also, the global south in general is very important in this respect. Countries like Brazil, like Mexico, are very important for Turkey. It is a new opening of Turkish foreign policy, actually, in the last 20 years. And our flag company, Turkish Airlines, indeed, flying straight forward there. I did last year to Sao Paulo, for example. And what is more important, the discussion here is a very positive outcome. But Mr. Perez, you have been the most practical and pragmatic one. You said we started, and we should support this in every sense. And at least my university, and I'm advisor to the president, by the way, so university president, so I can speak on behalf of my university. So thank you for all these ideas. I have taken my notes, and I will deliver it also to the university. And we want to get as soon as possible students, scientists, exchange, coming together and sending also there, and improve the relations in this fragmented world, as Madame several times appointed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. In order to be able to have as many as you as possible, try to be precise in the comment and the question, okay? And sorry about that, but that's...
Dear guests, for all this nice discussion. His Excellency Deputy Foreign Minister of Panama. As we know, like the first visit of Foreign Minister of U.S. was to Panama, and you know, we had a lot of discussions about confrontations. So within the last 3 months, how is the U.S.-Panama relations? And additionally, with this context, last year we had a similar Latin American panel here, and we had like foreign ministers, deputy ministers from Central America. And the main topic was the migration from south to north, the U.S. And within the last 1 year, what has changed? Thank you. By the way, my name is Mahmuter. I'm İpek Yolu Events Company. And also, I'm serving as Deputy Chair for the Turkey, Central America, and Caribbean Business Council in DAIC for the last almost 10 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will take 2 more questions, and then we will reply once, please.
Thank you so very much. My name is Tammy Tam. I'm from Hong Kong, China. I represent the Hong Kong's major English newspaper, the South China Morning Post. thank you all for your insights, very insightful thoughts about this, what diplomacy means in a fragmented world. My question is, we all understand the world right now is very fragmented. Basically, also thanks to the China-US rivalry. So one question in particular is for Your Excellency Minister Mans about how do you see Panama's relations with China? Panama pulled out from China's Belt and Road Initiative recently. There was saying that was because of the US. And also recently, one big political controversy in Hong Kong is about Hong Kong billionaire Lee Hutchison's the port sale, 2 ports sold in Panama to BlackRock, the US. So what's the latest about this, and how do you see this Panama, China, US, all this? And my second question is to all of you probably, is just now, Mr. Mann, you mentioned, when we look at cooperation, there can be more from trade and all this. We can also look at broader international cooperations. I can't agree with you more on this. How do you all see your country's relations with China amid this increasing geopolitical tension between the 2 major powers in the world? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is working, okay. My name is Shebnam Udum. I'm a professor of international relations at Hacettepe University in Ankara. Thank you very much for the entire panel. I have a short comment and a suggestion. I was invited in 2023 to Costa Rica, to the Universidad Nacional de Costa Rica, and apparently I was the first professor of international relations to lecture on very hard topics about security, and all that was in Spanish. And still, I could spark interest in these topics in a country which even does not have an army. So I would like to underline the role of language here, and this is the leeway to my second point and suggestion, as the panelists talked about promoting relations between Latin American and Caribbean countries and Turkey. What I noticed in Costa Rica was that there were several aspects where Turkish engineers and workers and other technical experts could contribute, but the only barrier is Spanish. So if you could come together and maybe take a decision to work on that one and promote learning Spanish so that you could attract more people, and this will definitely increase more contact. And I can assure you that we have so much in common because of our Mediterranean roots. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. So we will listen the Vice Minister from Panama, because there is one question specific directly to you, and then we will make a round for final comment, 1 minute to each of our speakers. Is that okay? Great. Please.
Thank you. So there's 2 questions. I'm very happy that my country generates so much interest, so thank you for that. It's also generated a lot of interest in the current U.S. administration. I don't know if we were extremely thankful for that or not, but anyway, I will comment. It's no secret, and I'm not mentioning anything that is unknown, that there is an increasing rivalry between the United States and China. And that rivalry has been, shall we say, accentuated during the current US administration. I think all countries in the world, and especially our country, would like to extract ourselves from that rivalry. But if you have a major world facility, transportation facility, a major world infrastructure facility running through your country, it is a bit difficult to extract yourself from that rivalry, especially if it is an important waterway for the United States and a very important one for China as well. So, the current U.S. administration, the perception in the current U.S. administration is that the canal had fallen under the influence of China, which is a total misperception because no country, no foreign country has any impact or any interference in the administration of the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal is run by an independent government agency going back 25 years since the transfer from the United States to Panama was completed at the end of 1999, the last day of 1999. But there was this misperception, and this misperception remains, unfortunately, among certain sectors in the United States, based specifically on the concession that the Panamanian government granted back in 1997 to a Hong Kong-based company to run 2 of the 5 ports that operate in Panama. There are 5 ports that operate in Panama alongside the canal, and 1 concession was granted to a Hong Kong company called Hutchison Whampoa to run 2 of these ports. Now, I know that our time is very limited, so I will cut it short. The misperception was that these ports were actually having an impact on running the canal. That is totally incorrect. As I said before, the canal is an independent government agency. It is autonomous. Not even the Panamanian government can tell the Canal Authority what it needs to do. The canal operates under a constitutional title, and it operates under a neutrality regime, which provides that it needs to be open and neutral for the use of every single country in the world, ships from every single country in the world, and that neutrality regime has remained in place and is effective even today. So, the Panamanian government has been doing a very, very important job in explaining to the new U.S. administration that there is no foreign interference in running the canal. Panama did pull out of the Belt and Road Initiative. I wouldn't say that it was entirely based on U.S. pressure. There wasn't any benefit accruing to Panama from participation in this Belt and Road Initiative. Nothing had happened. There was no project. There was nothing going on. So Panama pulled out, as it is Panama's right as a sovereign nation, right? At the same time, the United States has expressed an interest in enhanced security cooperation, and we are working on that right now in a way that will not compromise our national sovereignty. The basic tenet to be held is that the Panama Canal is the property of the Panamanian state. The Panamanian state is the sole owner, the Panamanian nation is the sole owner of the Panama Canal. It is a world facility. It needs to remain neutral and open to ships of every country in the world, but it is a Panamanian facility, and Panama is sovereign in the Panama Canal. And all countries in the world need to recognize this, and we have gained and received support from many countries throughout the region and beyond the region. We want to continue working on these links so that these facts are broadly recognized, because we do acknowledge and agree that the international system has changed over the past couple of weeks or months, and we need to be able to confront the new situation as proactively as possible. I think I'll leave it at that, so that we have an opportunity for others to participate.
Yes. Thank you very much, Vice Minister. So final comments, 1 minute, please. Yeah, the thing is that we are...
Sorry. My second question is also for the other panelists. So amid this intensifying geopolitics, how do you see your country's relations with China, or trade relations with China?
Yeah.
Different countries, yeah.
Okay, it's up to you if you want to answer or if you want to have your final comments.
Let me start to answer that one. You know, there is no change right now between Turkey and China's relations, and as far as I know, that some Chinese automotive companies investing in Turkey, and it's a good thing for our countries and for China too. But it's a difficult situation for all over the world, and everybody knows that, because the tariff fluctuations. I mean, must be stable for a long period of time, not every day is change. So it will affect, but it will be settled down sometime. I don't know how long going to be, but it will. And from the aspect of Turkey, there is nothing changed too much. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Maybe I'll stick to my closing
remark. Sure. Go ahead.
I just want to say that in May of this year, the Association of Caribbean States is hosting a summit of heads of state and government under the theme United for Life for Sustainable Development of the Greater Caribbean. And I mention that because it's a clear call to project from the Caribbean a shared vision to Latin America and to the world. And at the Association of Caribbean States, we believe that diplomacy and multilateralism must not remain rhetorical exercises detached from realities of our peoples. People do not measure success by joint communiques or signed agreements, but by real improvements in their lives. And this is why we're committed to demonstrating that diplomacy and multilateralism are powerful tools that can change the world and confront global challenges through cooperation, solidarity, and shared responsibility. Our region, the Greater Caribbean, has a voice, we have proposals, and we have a legacy that position us as a key actor in building a fair system of global governance. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister, please.
Yes. In closing, let me just indicate that the China-CARICOM relationship has remained quite stable. There are some countries in the community that have relationship with China, and there are some countries that have relationship with Taiwan, and that has remained so for quite a bit of time. There is no instability in that relationship. But in closing, let me just simply again emphasize that St. Kitts and Nevis, like the rest of the Caribbean community, is concerned in particular at this time with the sustainability of our development. In order to emphasize this, St. Kitts and Nevis will host at the end of May of this year what is called the Sustainable Island State Symposium, where countries which are island states from around the world will gather in St. Kitts and Nevis to discuss how we can develop our countries in a sustainable way. We're inviting all of you to be there. And finally, to say to Turkey, we welcome the opportunity to engender closer relationship, politically or governmentally, I should say, as well as training opportunities with the people and institutions of Turkey. Thank you.
Thank you. Please.
Thank you. So I want to touch on the migration question that was asked, which is, I think it's a very important one. There's been a big change in migration over the past few months, and it started already towards the end of the Biden administration, where you had a significant reduction in migration across, or at least in attempts to cross the U.S. border without proper documentation, and it really has slowed down to a trickle. But I don't know that that is necessarily good news, because the reality of the region is that there are important migratory flows. And when you just stop it in this sort of very artificial way, you're just delaying the problem for later. And so I think that one of the most important things that we have to sort out in the region is to figure out better arrangements for an orderly and organized migratory paths that go through the countries, they go from one place to another. Certainly, Mexico has become a lot less of an expulsor of migrants because of the economic situation and just the growth of the national economy. For the past 10, 15 years, Mexico has no longer become a net migratory expulsion country. And then the same thing happened with Central America, and now that has changed, and now most of the flows that we were seeing were coming from other places, Haiti, Venezuela, etc. Those problems have to be solved at the root. We have to work closely together with the United States also, but also among ourselves to try and figure out how to stabilize that and how to manage migration, because it's going to be important, because the reality is the U.S. economy needs migrants. The local economies, the regional economies are still exporting people, and so we have to find a better way to manage this, and not just through a security lens. We have to figure that out. That's going to be something that's going to take a long time to materialize. And just to close, I just want to say how thankful I am to be here and to have this excellent panel. And also, I think it's really important that Latin America and Turkey work together, and I think there's a lot of potential, and there's a lot of work that's being done, and hopefully we'll see some very good results in the short and medium term.
Thank you. Vice Minister, please.
Gracias. Y bueno, mi mensaje final es.
Thank you very much. My final message is that let's start working, let's do something, let's create projects. We have all those projects in our minds, and we are now motivated to achieve all those things with Turkey, and of course we have to achieve all those things on a regional basis as well, from Latin America, from Caribbeans. Let's give and send out that message. Let's look at each other and let's talk together. We have to build those bridges with the economy, with trade, and with all those actions that we can take. I believe we can be stronger and we can be closer. And I would like to thank once again for this panel and for this diplomacy forum, for your invitation. And I would like to also mention Spanish. Yes, in Latin America and in our region, in our country, we are very strong with education in teaching Spanish, and I would like to invite everyone who would like to learn Spanish from Mexico to all other states. You have lots of opportunities. I know that we have really nice representatives from DAIC as well. They have learned Spanish, and you have so much options to learn Spanish. So we can build those bridges again using Spanish also. So there is a challenge as a Caribbean states. Yes, I know it's a challenge for now, but if we start working now, also speaking from the perspective of Guatemala as well, we are always happy to be closer. For 4 and 5 years, I lived in Tobago, and it was an opportunity to get closer to Caribbeans, and I can say that I know Caribbeans much better now, but of course not perfectly, but now it's time to know each other better. So thank you so much once again for your kind invitation. It's a very good, important. Think about investment, think about doing business. Thank you.
I just want to finish by thanking first to these wonderful speakers.
Before you finish, I would like to announce sponsor of this panel.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then go ahead.
Yeah, well, as I said, I just want to finish thanking, of course, the speakers for being so precise, with the comments, with the time, so we were able to be on time, really no Latin American time, but sort of pretty shiny. And secondly, I would like very much to thank DAIC for sponsoring this panel, and thank you very much for that. In addition, of course, I would like to mention also the cooperation that we have from the Latin American ambassadors here in Turkey in order to promote this panel. So, and of course, thank you to all of you for being here and for making this wonderful question and comment. So I will leave the floor for you,
Yeah,
just for the final remarks.
Because you know, some companies, the names are passing through on the screen behind me. I would like to just mention the names on the alphabetical order. B2 Istanbul, thank you. Güral Porcelain, thank you very much. Roketsan, our defense, very strong defense industry company, thank you. Roof Stocks, thank you very much. And Sera Marketing, thank you very much. So, thank you. Allow me to announce the name of this company sponsored this
That's very important.
panel.
No, thank you, Dai. So, good afternoon.